Hey there, Mike Robbins here. Hope you are doing as well as possible today. I'm coming to you live on Thursday. It's a little after 11 a.m. Pacific time here, and I want to talk about um, this dynamic that I've been struggling with recently. I did a podcast about this a few days ago, but it's this whole challenge between balancing the foundation and the vision. And let me say more about this, maybe you can relate. So it's like, in life, right? And especially over the last 20 months during COVID, it's like focusing on the foundation, the nuts and bolts, the day-to-day, the in some cases survival, in other cases just practical reality of our life, the sort of blocking and tackling of both work and business as well as family life, and just kind of taking care of what needs to be taken care of. On a personal level, I've been sharing in recent weeks here on social media as well as on my podcast about some of my challenges with self-care, and just sleeping and eating and exercising. Hey Teresa, good to see you. Yeah, if you're joining live, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, would love to hear from you. If you're watching the video of this after, feel free to chime in as well with comments or questions, or just I'd love to hear your perspective on this. So I remember years ago hearing Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love and has written Big Magic, and really an expert on creativity and a great creator herself, talking about taking care of your animal, like your physicality, and not from a hardcore, like do this exercise program or eat this, way, but more just like if you're not getting enough sleep or enough, healthy food and water, and, your animal, your physicality is diminished or depleted, it's going to be difficult to create anything. Not impossible, but it's just going to diminish our capacity to work, to write, to paint, to do whatever it is we have to do in our lives. And we all know that, right? And in business, right? It's like there's the core, there's the foundation of the business. There's the, whether you have, you work for a big corporation or you run a small business or you just doing your job on a daily basis. It's like, I got to get there on time. I got to fill out the forms. I got to have the spreadsheets. I got to make the meetings. I got to send the emails. I got to manage my calendar. I got to, like, the basics. And then there's the vision. There's where are we headed? What are we doing? Where are we going? What, personally and professionally, what are our dreams? What are our aspirations? How do we innovate? How do we change? How do we manifest something new and different that maybe we've never experienced? And I think in life and in business, there's always this rub or this challenge, if you will, of um, you know, figuring out sort of how we do both of those things simultaneously. And I've struggled with this. And over COVID, what I found, like prior to COVID, I'll just share some of my own experience with my business. Things had gone really well. We had a great year in 2018. We had an even better year in 2019. And I had an, Bring Your Whole Self to Work. My fourth book came out in 2018. And there was some momentum from that. And then I wrote a new book in 2019. We're all in this together. And it was coming out in 2020. And I felt like, for a variety of reasons and based on some momentum that had been built over the previous couple of years, I was ready to grow and change and expand some things and hire someone new on our team and take some risks and try some different things that were more in the realm of innovating and changing and evolving in the vision. And again, I've been doing this at the time, 2019, that was my 19th year of being in business, going into 2020, which was going to be my 20th year. And so we brought someone new on the team and we hired a PR firm, and we were working with some different creative folks and some marketing folks and doing some things to launch the book and grow the business and try to create some new products. And then COVID hit. And all of the speaking engagements, which is the core and always has been the core of my business, got canceled or postponed. All the book launch plans got blown up. So many of the different things we were working on with momentum just stopped, because it was like, oh my gosh, the world seems to be coming to a halt. The economy is shutting down. No more in-person meetings. And it was terrifying, right? I mean, not to mention there was like, people are getting sick, people are dying. Like, this is a serious, all the different things. Our girls were home from school. I mean, look, you went through your own version of what happened when COVID really took hold and March of 2020, right? And over the next few months, after the panic of it all started to wear off a little bit, but there was still really scary going through it, like we had to lay off the person that we hired. We had to halt a lot of the projects we were working on, see if we could pivot the business to virtual and do some different things. And thankfully, we were able to do that. But a lot of what's been required of me as a business owner and even as a thought leader over the last 20 months has been a lot of foundational stuff. Yes, it's been some changing and some pivoting and some innovating and some adjusting, of course, but mostly in kind of, if I'm really honest, like in a survival way, in a like, how do we keep the business going? How do we navigate through this tricky time and continue to do the work? Even coming to you here on social media live, not that I never did this before COVID, but I just did a 3-hour workshop just earlier today on Zoom that like I never did things like that before COVID. So I say that again, your business and your work is obviously, I'm sure, very different than mine, but figuring out how we take care of the foundation and keep things going. Thinking about that with our families, right? It's like life changed a lot during COVID and still is changed and disrupted. It's like, okay, just the basics, just taking care of, are we paying the bills? Are we cleaning the house? Are we getting the kids educated first on Zoom, maybe now back in school with masks on or wherever, depending on where you live? And it's like, so I share all of this. You have your own story of it. I've got mine. But I've noticed that in recent weeks and months, as we're moving towards the end of the year, I tend to get into a contemplative, reflective state as we move into the holidays and towards the end of the year, and thinking about how did this year go personally, but also professionally. And usually what also comes on the heels of that is some excitement and some visioning and aspiring for what is the new year going to hold. And I noticed that over the course of the last 20 months, I've really had a hard time dreaming and visioning and thinking about the future. I think maybe because the present is so uncertain and even the future seems so uncertain. I mean, look, let's be honest, it's always uncertain, right? But it seems especially so these days. And I seem to be mostly focused on the foundation, on the day-to-day, on the blocking and tackling of business, of life. And that's not inherently a bad thing. It's not wrong, evil, weird, weak, wimpy. It's not that exciting, quite frankly. It's I'll say to Michelle sometimes, my wife, like, look, I want to have a clean house. I want to be organized. I want, all the things, like even to be in a position and coming from where we came from and what we've been through financially and otherwise, it's like, look, I want to be able to pay the bills and save some money and put some money away for the girls to go to college and put some money away for retirement and things like that, because we're blessed enough to be able to do that. But like, that's not what I feel like the purpose of my life is, or the purpose of my work is. I want to be able to generate revenue with the business and make sure we can, pay the team and take care of what we need to take care of and do all the things and be smart about it, right? But it's like the P&L of a business, as important as that is, whether it's a small business like I have or a much larger corporation, like that's not really the purpose. Now, if the business goes under or the business isn't profitable, we can't do the good work we want to do in the world. But it's like, I didn't start doing this 21 years ago because I wanted to have a healthy P&L. So again, it's sitting with that. And again, we all have our own different versions of this, but how can we simultaneously take care of the core, take care of the foundation, and be dreaming and visioning and innovating for what we're wanting to create and experience personally, professionally, individually, collectively? Another example from my business, I started this business in 2001. And I was 26 years old at the time and didn't really know exactly. I mean, I knew I had this passion. I wanted to speak, I wanted to write, I wanted to help people. I was inspired by people like Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra and Marianne Williamson and Richard Carlson, who wrote Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, who I then was fortunate enough to meet a few years later and become friends with. And he became a mentor of mine. And, people like Dan Millman and Sark and Carolyn Mace and Thomas More, and these inspirational, spiritual, personal growth thought leaders. And I thought, I want to do that. And I didn't know, how does one even start doing that? How do you get good at that? How do you write a book? How do you get any credential or credibility? How do you It seemed like those people would end up on Oprah or on TV, or I'd walk in the bookstore and they'd have books in there. And I had no idea, but I knew that I had a desire. I knew I had a vision, a passion for it. And over the course of the next decade, I did start the business. I did start coaching. I did start speaking. I started to figure out a little bit of writing. Eventually got my first book published in 2007, Focus on the Good Stuff. And then 2009, my second book, Be Yourself, Everyone Else Is Already Taken, came out. And in that span, Michelle and I got engaged, and then we got married, and we bought a house, and we had Samantha in 06, and we had Rosie in 08. And so within a decade of starting the business, getting married, having babies, writing books, but it was 2009 when my second book came out, Be Yourself, Everyone Else Is Already Taken. Samantha was about 3, little over 3. Rosie was still a baby, under 1. And I wasn't that focused on the foundation of the business. I was spending a lot of time dreaming and visioning and manifesting. Things were going well. I mean, I'd had some success, and the first book did better than people expected, even myself included, and was doing some media and getting some more speaking engagements, and things were growing and building. And when the second book came out, I was really focused on, this book is going to make me famous. This book is I'm going to get on Oprah, and everyone's going to buy it and be talking about it. And that didn't happen. It's a variety of factors, I would imagine, but not the least of which was we went into an incredibly intense and far-reaching recession at the end of 2008 and into 2009. And I stopped paying attention to the blocking and tackling, the foundation of the business and of managing our finances, and was just almost singularly focused on launching this second book and really doing everything I could to have that book and my business and my platform grow and expand. And when I finally came up for air in the middle of 2009, after the book had been out for a few months, and was having a really hard time both promoting the book, because nobody seemed to care that much about a book on authenticity when people were losing their jobs and the global economy was cratering and people were losing their homes. And I realized, which I probably should have realized before that, we were broke. We were underwater in our house by hundreds of thousands of dollars. We were deeply in debt. And here I was. And by the end of 2009, now having done this business for almost 10 years, written 2 books and had 2 babies and out, I didn't know exactly how we could continue to function, if I could continue to even support the family. And it was really scary. And I remember that time, and Michelle and I both having to really come to terms with the fact of, we need to get back to the basics. We need to learn some really basic things about planning and budgeting and managing our finances. And I need to really focus on the core of the business. What can I do that actually makes money? And I'm sharing this with you. I've written about this. I've talked about it because I'm grateful and thankful that, another 10 years or more later, where we are now, things have changed and transformed and grown in wonderful ways and abundant ways. And we were able to navigate through a really difficult time financially and otherwise, to come out the other side and pay off the debt and get out of the house situation and start to learn how to manage our finances and the business more effectively, more responsibly. But again, what that did, even though that was many years ago, was had me realize, if you spend too much time focused on the vision and not enough time focused on the foundation, it can get out of balance. But then on the flip side, what I've been grappling with more recently, if all you spend is most of your time and energy on the foundation, hard to really grow, hard to really evolve, change, innovate, and have that life and that passion, that excitement in what it is we do. Now, look, even as I say this, I do realize focusing on vision, focusing on innovation can be a privilege personally, and even for an organization. That means we have enough of the basics handled. But when we don't, you have to, by nature, focus primarily on the foundation, on the basics, because that's what it takes. But can we balance those things out? The pendulum for me swung all one way at one point. It swung all the other way at another point. What I'm wanting to have it be is somewhere in the middle, in that healthy balance of, yes, let's take care of the basics. Yes, let's take care of ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally. Yes, let's make sure things are organized and we clean the house and we get the kids off to school and we balance the checkbook or whatever version of that we do these days, or we pay our bills. And yes, let's make sure with the business we're focused on the core. We don't get away from who we are. But at the same time, you think about there's many classic cases of Kodak, of Blockbuster Video, of other companies that were unwilling, because they were so successful at doing what they do the way they do it. They weren't willing to adjust and pivot. Kodak didn't see the digital photo revolution coming. Tower Records didn't see, the digital music revolution coming. Blockbuster Video didn't see. And again, could they have pivoted? Could they have changed? I don't know exactly. I'm not involved in those businesses specifically, but they don't exist anymore. I used to love going to Tower Records. I used to love going to Blockbuster Video. Now I'm on Netflix and Hulu and HBO Max and Comcast On Demand. And now I get all my music on Apple Music. Again, those things happen, those things change. So can we focus on the foundation, the core, not get away from who we are, not get away from the necessity of making sure that things are taken care of, there's integrity to what we do. And at the same time, can we be thinking about innovating and changing and evolving and growing, and what's the vision and where are we headed and what's coming next? And that's why we need people on our teams that have both of those mindsets, both of those sensibilities within the organization. Within ourselves, can we tap into both of those parts of ourselves? Not always easy to do, especially when things can be stressful, overwhelming, uncertain, as they have been. I know I've been struggling with this, but it's really important. I'm wanting to move the pendulum from so far on the foundational side more to somewhere in the middle between foundation and vision. Tap into some of that vision. I'm going to be talking more about visioning and manifesting and creating and intentions as we move through the end of the year and into the new year. But I do think energetically, that's part of what is happening collectively right now. Like it seems like, and again, I'm scared to even say this out loud, we're starting to turn the corner a bit. Yes, I know that COVID is, there's a new COVID spike and surge in Europe. And yes, we're getting into cold and flu season. And yes, there's still vaccine hesitancy here in the US and other places. And so who knows what's going to happen. And we thought we were turning the corner in the summer, and then we had the Delta variant. But as we start to energetically feel like we're turning the corner on our way around to the other side of COVID, I think now there's more spaciousness for us to start to think about, well, what does come next? What is it that I want to create next? What is it that we want to create next? What does the post-COVID world really look like? What does that mean to me personally? What does that mean to us collectively? And in order for us to do that effectively, we're going to need to get more into the space of vision, of innovation, of creativity, of change, of embracing that, and let go, not completely of continuing to maintain the foundation, but knowing that that's not all of what our job is about, so to speak. So anyway, I don't know if this relates to you specifically. It definitely relates to me right now. So hopefully you found something useful and valuable in this. I will come back on. I don't know if I'll be on next week during Thanksgiving to do another social live, but if I don't, happy Thanksgiving to you if you are here in the US or you are somewhere where that wonderful holiday gets celebrated. If not, hopefully you can tap into gratitude and Thanksgiving of your own in some way next week. But I will most likely be back the following week, although I'm going to be getting back out on the road, traveling a bit coming up in the first couple of weeks in December, which I'm excited about, although a little nervous, and have a lot more in-person events coming up in December, January. So maybe when I come on live, I won't always just be here in my office, either standing in the corner where I speak from or sitting over at my desk where I work from. But I will be back engaged with you here on LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube, wherever you watch these. So take care. Happy Thanksgiving. Talk to you soon.